Ladies and gentlemen, greetings. Can you believe we are already in week 5 of our Transformational Leadership interview series on Conversations with Colette on YouTube? Believe it or not, we are in week 5. This week, we are looking at some gems from the conversations we had with our leaders. We are delighted to inform you that we have completed the first 4 interviews in this series of captivating leadership conversations aimed at sharpening the skills of current and aspiring leaders globally. There are more interviews to come. The questions were divided into 7 segments for each interview. Each leader's responses were unique and are worthy of being highlighted. What are the objectives? Each featured interviewee or leader spoke on transformational leadership from different perspectives. The objectives of this interview series are twofold: to provide a documented account of how great leaders have achieved success, particularly in the Caribbean, and to provide a leadership blueprint through a form of indirect mentorship for the development of the next generation of leaders. You may not be able to get these leaders to mentor you directly, but you can certainly learn from the lessons that they have shared. The rationale really for this week is to capture key points and highlights. Over the next 2 weeks, we will be capturing and highlighting thematic segments to ensure that you, or current and prospective leaders, will be able to receive the gems in bite-sized pieces. When we speak of leadership, we are referring to the process of directing and influencing the task-related activities of group members. Leadership is relevant to every organization globally, including political, corporate, religious, non-profit, multilateral, community-based, and international financial institutions. Transformational leadership is an approach or style of leadership that, as the root word transform suggests, causes a change or alteration in the state, character, performance, appearance, or disposition of individuals and social systems over which they exercise authority or control, even in the face of challenges. Transformational leaders are able to envision desired outcomes, open lines of communication, challenge all members of the team to expand and operate beyond their comfort zone to stretch, and work assiduously to attain high standards of performance. Integrity is integral to transformational leadership, as the leader must be able to gain and sustain the trust and confidence of those he or she leads. It is this kind of leadership that will allow leaders, their team members, and respective organizations to survive and thrive even in the face of a crisis or pandemic. The area of focus for week 1 of 2 this week is segment 4, the path to success. Each of the 4 leaders was asked 7 questions. The focus of this week's summary is segment 4. The question was, what were your main strategies to achieve success? Recognizing that each individual is unique and responds to stimuli in different ways, what advice would you give to someone who desires to achieve your level of success? Dr. Peter Phillips is focusing his strategies on politics and the public service. So you can listen to that interview and glean the gems from that. Recognizing that each individual responds to stimuli in different ways, what advice would you give to someone who desires to achieve your level of success?
Well, the first thing I would say is that yes, I guess this search for success was a consideration in my life, but success more in the sense of achieving the tasks that were before me. I never said that, if I do that, then I will become X or Y. I've never been driven that way, and in fact, in almost every position that I've achieved, I had no contemplation, for example, of being General Secretary of the party, but was approached by Comrade Michael Manley and Comrade P.J. Patterson when Paul Robertson indicated to them that he wanted to demit office, who came and said, well, we think you would be a good person to assume this office. Up to that point, I had no no thought of the matter. I hadn't even had thought of being a minister of government when I was working in the party in the 70s and doing things like political education, etc. Until again Michael Manley came and said, I would like to appoint you as senator, and you think there. I never had a thought of it. But I've always looked at the tasks that are before me and said, you know, I guess you could say probably fear of failure more than search for success. Or a desire not to fail at the task. And that was probably something as instilled in you like from the days you were taking O levels and A levels. But you didn't know, or even in first form or second form, you didn't know. I didn't know I could go home and say I had failed at it. Or put it this way, even if things I failed at, I was filled with trepidation at the thought of failing because you are going to be disappointed. So it was more the desire. And in doing it, I learned some critical lessons. One, I've said it before, preparation. When I give an example, at a point in time I had been at Jamaica House from 89. I then went into General Secretary, worked, served as Minister of Special Projects, but all in the office of the Prime Minister. At a point in time in a discussion with the then Prime Minister, P.J. Patterson, I said, well, you know, he made an offer or an instruction, how they look at it, since you really don't disagree with Prime Minister's much, to be Minister of Health. And as I said to him then, you know, I have contemplated many ministries that I would like to serve in. My training has been in other areas, you know, international relations and other things. I've been in political economy. So things like commercial and other things were very much. I said the one area I had never considered was health. Never thought of it. Yeah. Well, as I said, that was what was on offer. So having never studied it, never known anything about it, I set out to inform myself in the 3 days or so before I actually assumed office, to know as much as find out as much as I could find out. I called folks at the World Bank, called folks at the IDB, called people in the Ministry of Health, called people at the university who were experts, locked myself away at my house and studied the sector. So at least at the outset on the Monday morning when we were to take up responsibilities or whatever morning it was, I had some idea, even if it needed to be refined, what were the issues and the challenges in the sector.
So I'm hearing the importance of prior preparation.
Prior preparation.
Thank
Know
so
what is going on.
Thank you so much.
And that you have to do that. Then the other thing is to basically share your perspective with the team that is going to implement, which is the staff of the ministry, in the case of government, the senior staff of the ministry. Share your views and listen to their views. And I emphasize listen to their views, because you will have to adjust your views in the face of persuasive views that differ with yours. And I emphasize persuasive. Don't be afraid to argue your position. And most of all, encourage. One of the great dangers is that people will be inclined to accept your view because of the office that you hold. You have to encourage people to be frank and open. Encourage them to disagree. Because there is nothing that I found more dangerous and threatening to your success than the prospect that people would see you hurtling over the precipice and not tell you because they were afraid to disagree with you or tell you something that you might find unpleasant. So in positions of authority, and especially where authority is very powerful, like in ministerial position, you have to put your staff at ease. And I found throughout life, really, and it's a lesson learned from both Comrade Manley and Hudson. But from the earliest days, Michael Manley would have a staff meeting of the key moving parts of the Office of the Prime Minister. You know, ministers and permanent secretaries and special assistants had equal status in that meeting. Everybody was free to talk your mind. I mean, and in a sense, in the tradition of the PNP, I guess the notion of comrade had meaning there. But even with the civil servants who were not part of any party commitment, but their right to speak. And it is a model that I have carried throughout all ministries and into the party. That everybody talks, and in the end you allow the different views to contend and arrive at decisions, and they have to, you need to persuade people. So it's not your autocratic leadership that is a recipe for disaster, because you will find that there is very little candor from people. People will begin to tell you what they think you want to hear, and you will hear the things that you need to hear in going forward. But so you have to persuade, as I was saying, the second task, clear your own mind, have a pathway forward, persuade people, share that vision, refine the vision on the basis of this kind of dialogue with your senior staff members, and persuade them about what you are contemplating, and then move to implement what you need to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Mr. Leopold Williams is looking at strategies to achieve success in insurance and the business. You can listen to him and glean lessons from that. What were your main strategies to achieve success? Recognizing that each individual is unique and responds to stimuli in different ways, what advice would you give to someone who desires to achieve your level of success?
Well, first you have to have a goal plan, because somebody said if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Yeah? You have to set up. I used to set up in the night. I used to do my own role play. Yes, if I have a person to sell, which I know would be tough, because it is said that engineer was one of the hardest person to sell life insurance. So if I know I have a person like that, I would set up late in the night. I would do my research. And one thing I learned about dealing with people is that, first of all, you have to express commonality with the person. So I would find out, search and research a person's life and find out what make them tick. And in my conversation, that is the first thing I would start with. So when I go to talk with the person, we were already friends, because I would know so much about them. Right? Yes. And I would know what they don't like and you don't bring up what they don't like. Right? First, so I find methods of how to approach a person. And those days you have to pass the secretary before you could get to the boss. So I would study how to deal. So you have to set up yourself for success. It does not happen. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Mr. Horace Wiles is speaking to strategies to achieve success in finance and family life. What were your main strategies to achieve success? Recognizing that each individual is unique and responds to stimuli in different ways, what advice would you give to someone who desires to achieve your level of success?
The path to success is very clear to me, and I wish it would be so clear to all of us. But before I became a Christian, like any other youth, I was in Alexandria in those days, and the ganja was, very prominent then. I could have really been affected by it, right? And so I wasn't totally affected, but I used to gamble, because these guys used to have, horse racing. And a friend of mine who was one of the person that sells in the betting shop, so he would get tips, like horses. And we used to have somebody selling what is called Japan. Japan is a numbers game, so people dream and based on the dream. And I'm saying all of this to say, there are times when they say, this horse is going to win. And you put all the money in. And the horse was going to win until suddenly he might slip a saddle or the jockey falls off the horse or something. But there's no guarantee. So, so I spent my money and I was just losing. No. What's my path to success? I have come to learn, understand this passage. It says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things shall be added. And Dr. Smith, since I became a Christian, the things have just been added. I've gone to India twice, all expense paid. I went to Japan, where I spent 4 months, all expense paid by the Japanese government. Doors have been opened. And I'm saying, foundation of it, as the word says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things shall be. And it hasn't changed. And my children, I give God thanks that they're all Christians and they understand this. And jobs look them, right? I remember when I was in Japan, a job came up here in Jamaica, they wanted a parish manager for minor. And they contacted my home, and my wife said, listen, they wanted me to go work in Portland, I think. And, I didn't even know about the job, and she did the interview and told MD, if you want my husband to work for minor, he has to work in St. Anne. I'm not sending him to Portland. And so much so, they were interested that the day I came off the plane, I went to see the managing director. And he said, the job is yours.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
The job is yours.
Wonderful.
And today I know the same thing is happening to children. People are actually offering them jobs.
Mm-hmm. It's a blessing. Thank you so very much, Mr. Wiles. Mr. Louis Grant looked at strategies to achieve success in hospitality and tourism management. What were your main strategies to achieving success, recognizing that each individual is unique and responds to stimuli in different ways? What advice would you give to someone who desires to achieve your level of success?
Well, it's being reasonable with people, and I'm talking about staff, guests, everybody. I'm not in the business to try and lord it over anybody. I'm there to guide them, and to let them know how they should operate. As far as I'm concerned, every member of staff should be a salesperson, and they are salespeople. Because if they treat the guests well, the guests will come back. So that is part of the key. So I might back staff in certain respects, but I don't back them in every respect, and I don't, I deal with a guest with respect, but I let him know what he did wrong and what he should do if he wants to be around Jamaica and around the staff. If he wants to get good service, what he needs to do. And so that's basically what I did, is what I would like to see when I go to a hotel and I'm paying my money. The same thing that you need to give that guest, so that he sees that. And it has nothing to do with anything else. It's just being pleasant, helping these people as much as you can, remembering that there are a lot of them strangers in a strange country. How would you like to be trained if you went to their country?
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. You shared something with me this morning, Mr. Grant, and as I recall, you understood when I worked with Sandals every aspect of the operation. When I spoke with you this morning, I had a better understanding of why you were so competent in so many areas. You said when you worked as a bar cashier, you sought to learn the other aspects of the operation. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that has enhanced your success?
Well, it really it started with just being in the bar and obviously making sure that the guests got the service that they wanted.
Yeah.
And I also had to make certain that the staff weren't stealing
Yes.
from the guests and padding the checks and so on,
Yes.
and putting in tips when they couldn't. So I checked all of that,
Yes.
you know. Then I went in the kitchen, and basically it was just sitting there, and people came by with a tray, see what they'd ordered and what they ordered was fine and so on, and whether it was set up properly, and that was it. It's, I just think it's a matter of how you were brought up,
Yes.
you know, how you were trained at home, and how you applied that training to the relationship. I mean, at one point I said to myself, you know, I would love to be able to be on every single plane coming into Jamaica and talk to the people to explain to them how to enjoy their vacation in Jamaica. I tell them what they're to do and what they're not to do, and so on. And I mean, I just felt that. I never said it, I never did it, because there was no way of really doing it. But it's something that I felt inside, that if we could get people to understand us, and we understand them, that you couldn't do anything wrong.
Sounds a lot like cultural awareness.
Yeah, and that's really the key to it, is being aware of the needs of a person, what a person wants to do.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that this gentleman was there, and that I wanted to know that I was aware of it, and if there was anything that he needed, I needed to know.
Excellent. I'm sure that his respect level for you went up, recognizing that you were in fact in control. In fact, control is one of the key functions of management: planning, leading, organizing, and controlling. And you seem to have been able to hone your expertise in all of those areas. Beautiful.
You need to have the staff behind you regardless, and the only way you're going to have the staff behind you is to treat them with respect.
Yes, sir.
And the respect comes from when they do something like that. I call and say, "Listen, thank you very much. That's what it's all about."
Yes, yes, wonderful. When we talk about transformational leadership, let's look at some examples to bring the concepts home. Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, Jack Welch of General Electric USA, Nelson Mandela of South Africa, and others have been highlighted as transformational leaders. Lee Kuan Yew transformed Singapore from a virtual dump filled with shanties and shacks to a first world country in one generation. Lee Kuan Yew, as many persons may know, was the president of Singapore from 1959 to 1990, and up to 2013, he still provided oversight. Singapore is a former British base located in Southeastern Asia, between Malaysia and Indonesia. It has a landmass of 640 kilometers square and a population of just over 5.3 million. It was founded as a British colony in 1819 and occupied from 1942 to 1945 by the Japanese. Singapore was part of the Malaysian Federation from 1963 until August 9, 1965, when it gained independence from Britain. Jack Welch, he groomed a generation of business leaders who went on to run giant organizations such as Boeing and Home Depot. Though he was described as brash and hard-nosed by many, Jack Welch led General Electric Company through 2 decades of unparalleled growth and transformation with a style that single-handedly turned the companies around to make them profitable. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned in 1964, but by May 1994, he was inaugurated as South Africa's first democratically elected president. He went on to win the Nobel Prize. The leader with a transformational style, approach, and mindset will not be overwhelmed by personal, professional, or global challenges like this pandemic we are faced with, but will find opportunities in the midst of a crisis. What life lessons will you take away from these gems shared by these leaders? How will you use these lessons on your own journey to success? We invite you to like, comment, subscribe, and share. That way, you and others will not miss the nuggets of wisdom being shared by these highly experienced leaders. This is your opportunity to be indirectly mentored by the best. Transformational Leadership, the path to success. This was our focus in this week 5. Upcoming series and conversations with Colette include the road to good governance and fiscal discipline, financial wellness, service excellence and its impact on the bottom line, the future of work, what's your academic plan, civics and citizenship, responsibilities accompany rights, leadership versus management, what's the difference, finding your why, and understanding the brain in relation to resilience. We look forward to engaging you over the next 12 months. Thank you.